For sure. Well, we are so excited to have James with us today. He owns and runs the Hive, which is a one-of-a-kind salon focused on sustainable beauty for the industry and the environment. He wears many hats in his salon, including social media marketing, is the resident product and ingredient specialist, co-founder of the Salon Movement, which is an internet video show focusing on salon sustainability, not only including being green, but also education, retail, and marketing. At the start of COVID closures, he signed on as one of the moderators for the Beauty Business Reset, now a weekly live call. His salon has been in one of the top 200s in the country. Their business model incorporates how bees work together as a community by sponsoring projects locally, nationally, and globally. So this family-run business started 8 years ago with the combination of his wife's 20 plus years in the industry, a psychic reading, and an actual bee sting. And that's where we have to start, James. We have to start with the story.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I should probably precursor and say, I've been working since I was 14 years old. So I've always had a job and come from a background where my parents were like, can't quit a job unless you have a job. So I don't want to act like I was a job hopper by any stretch of the means. I worked in a lot of businesses for a long time. And when I graduated college, I went into the IT recruiting side of the world. My college roommate had a job at an actual company and said, hey, I think we can do this and start a business. And we had done that. We did it for a while, and then 9/11 happened. So obviously I've survived many a tragedy in this world, and that really kind of beat up the IT industry. But years later, I was working in finance, right? So my next job was in the finance industry, mortgage housing, which obviously had its crazy downturn. And I went back into recruiting for someone I knew locally, and took a regular 9 to 5 non-entrepreneurial job for a change because we had 2 kids at that time. And it just wasn't working. They brought me in to kind of run the IT department for them. And nothing was working. I had meetings, crazy meetings, and hospitals and software developers and all these things. And I just couldn't get anything to really stick. And it was driving me bananas because, that's sort of what I do. And we were about to have our third, my youngest, who now is in 4th grade. And I was just completely stuck. So I should precursor a little bit and say I have a father-in-law that's a cup reader. His Spanish descent has taught him how to read cups pretty well. And he's made many a staff member and waiter cry at our company Christmas party over what he's able to tell in an espresso cup reading. So sort of as a joke, he knows that's so not my thing. Like I just tarot cards and everything, do your Ouija, it's all good for you, but just not my deal. And he got me and my brother-in-law a reading with this psychic that he knew in Florida. So it's a virtual, over the phone type of thing. And sort of as a Christmas gift, as a joke. And, I left work and, I worked with a bunch of guys. We'd go to lunch together and the typical type of thing. And I said, hey, I have to go do something. And I snuck out and I pulled over on the side street and I called Hector in Florida. And he said, what do you want to talk about? And I said, to be honest with you, like only work. That's all I want to know. I don't want to know if I have anything wrong with me. I don't anything crazy. I just need to kind of focus on work. And so we chatted a bit, and turns out he had been in the IT industry. So we had a nice little conversation about that. And he said, he said, let me ask you a question. Are you losing your hair? And I said, never. I will wear a wig. I don't care. Plant grass seed is my joke, right? As the sustainable business. I will never be bald. I apologize. I know, Tina, you're very friendly with Wynn, who I love. And some people can rock the bald thing. I think I got hit in the head too many times as a kid. If I was bald, it would look like I have a shark fin. I don't know, whatever it is. So I said, no. And I said, maybe you're seeing stress because of work and things. He goes, no, I'm seeing hair. And I said, well, maybe it's my wife because, she had at that point been doing hair for, who knows how many years. I'm not allowed to say, by the way. So she already told me I could say 20 plus. That's it. But he said, no, I see you physically something with hair. Like it's definitely you. It's not anybody else. And that was probably about 2 years before we opened the business. And, and like I said, we went through a little bit of a downturn and I was left unemployed at that point in time. Wasn't let go, by the way. We had a downturn in the business. So never been fired from a job, by the way, Tina. Okay. I'm always the first one to show up.
Write that down.
Yes. So, what do you do when you get laid off is you go and you decide to open a business. I mean, that's just the greatest thing. Let's take our life savings and decide to, throw it all out there. And I'm sure, like a lot of hairstylists, that when you graduate beauty school, you have this aspiration that you'd love to open a salon. So I'm the filing guy at home, right? I'm the one that keeps all the records. And I went back with, any past licenses and things that my wife had. And she had sort of a wish list of what she would name a salon if she ever opened one, that she had probably the day she graduated beauty school, which was a cute thing. And when I kind of looked at the list, I said, wow, I'm really digging this whole beehive thing. And I said, we were a sustainable household, we're big recyclers, and my kids eat organic and all this fun stuff. And I said, I'm kind of liking the twist of bees and the environment, and, the beehive retro hairstyle. So you're paying homage to, like, kind of classic hairdressing, I guess you'd say, and the environment itself. So we were stuck. We were like, she's like, I don't know if people are going to buy into that and the whole organic and natural thing. I know it was sort of a hot property, but 10 years ago, it really wasn't as big as it is now. And here we are, we're at like a Pee-wee soccer game, right? My son is on the soccer field. My daughter is sleeping in the car, and I have the baby. So we're actually on the phone with each other about 50 yards away. She's in the car watching one, I'm watching him, and I'm holding the baby. And we had to get down to brass tacks. I said, we already had the location picked out. We just, we were starting to get ready to renovate. And I said, you gotta really pick the name, and we have to go with it. And she was still kind of back and forth. I think we narrowed it down to 3, and that was obviously one of them. And then I get stung by a bee under the baby's diaper while I'm on the phone with her. So I said, I guess fate, once again, the universe is going to tell me that there's no other option at that point. So that's sort of how I got into the hair business. So unlike all of you that went to beauty school, which I give you tons of credit, and all the trainings that you've gone through, I got in because of a psychic. And I'm probably the only person that can say that.
Yes, I think you are. I love it. And hopefully you're not allergic to bees. So did you turn out okay?
Thankfully, no. And surprising enough, the way certain things have worked out in my life, it would have been an even funnier story if I went into shock and had to, get an epinephrine shot or something crazy.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Yeah, I have a nephew that's allergic to bees, so he's so scared. I actually, for the first time, got to go to a farm in Florida and experience how important bees are, and to the farmers. And so it's kind of really interesting. And so this keeps like coming back into my life, right, about being a bee. And I was thinking about that because I was like, oh, we should be an ant and we should be a bee, because they're just so busy working. And I love that. And I love your story so much, James. And I love the mere fact, first of all, that both you, Andrew Finkelstein, and Derek Hall all just came to the aid of the beauty industry, and to watch how that page, Salon Owner Mastermind, has just really flourished. And so where did that come from to start that? As thousands and thousands of salon owners are on that, and you guys are just really, really adding value. Where did it first start, and where's it going right now?
Well, and it's funny because Derek and I knew each other. We actually met through a charity project, for one of your friends, with Christine Zielinski. So we had done a Hair for Hurricanes event. I happen to be a fantastic event planner. I don't know. I don't know where it came from, but I get weird phone calls all the time about wedding invitations and crazy things. I just always had the optics to just say, hey, this, it's like a band makes a real party where no offense to DJs that are out there. I have a few good DJ friends that have run events for us, but we had done this great event. So we did a hairbrain teach-in, and we did a cut-a-thon at the same time, and we had food trucks and all this fun stuff. And Derek and I had just been casual friends at that point, and we actually met for the first time. He's another New Jersey native, and he said, hey, I have this idea, and I'd really like to kind of support salons during this time. And the funny thing is, his big thing is he's Marine, so his company's Salon Ops, and he said, get me an SOP on the technology to run the Zoom thing, because we had been doing Zoom calls forever at that point. And so SOP, for you guys that don't know, it's standard operating procedures, which when he told me that, I didn't know it either. I had to look it up.
What is SOP?
Yeah. So SOB, I know, but SOP.
I'll do SOP.
And so we sort of prepped how things were going to run, and how, it's not as easy to have a lot of people on a call as most people know at this point, because of the pandemic. So we sort of had a process that we were going to go through. And I met Andrew for the first time through that. Andrew is a storied veteran of the hair industry, so he knows everybody who's anybody. So we had built this list of guests that we were going to have on, and we really weren't sure where it was going to take us. But what wound up happening in the process, now today actually, it'll be our 73rd call since closure. So our very first call was March 26th. We're in New Jersey. We were about 10 days into the closure. And, we've just been able to align salon owners and either bring them things. I mean, God, the PPP loan craziness that went in, and thank God for some of our friends like Steve Gomez and Nikki Lee and Iva that were able to jump in and help people navigate. But we just became a resource. I mean, it really is just, and listen, first of all, it's a lot of fun for us. But it really became a resource of much needed higher level thinking that salon owners are going through. It's not the complaint department, right? We're not dealing with the employees showing up late type of stuff and the stuff that some salon owners deal with. It's things that they really need. And it's more importantly, it's support.
Yeah, I love it. You know, my husband has always said, you know, he just retired as being a lawyer this past couple of years. And he's always said the smartest people in the world are actually hairdressers. Every time, because they learn so much, just the street smarts that they have. You know, it's not just book smarts, it's street smarts and being around so many people because of all their clients that they have, right? And so I love the fact that you had a call every single night. And I have to tell you, I was on probably about 90% of them. And I was quarantining with my family at the time in Florida, James. But I was going through such like an anxiety moment. Like I didn't know where my companies were going to go, like what was going to happen. And I was just so fearful of losing them. And I'm like, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? You can lose your companies, file bankruptcy, and just start over. And so that's what I was going to do. I was going to start over. But I snuck out of the house and tiptoed over to my office so I could listen to you guys every night. And they're like, oh, what are you doing? Oh, nothing, just paperwork and stuff. So I could listen to you guys, but you helped relieve that anxiety. I don't think you realize how you helped so many people with what you guys did. And every night, how hard was that for you? Because you've got little kids, to leave your family and to just like really focus on that and just giving back to the beauty industry.
Well, it's funny now because now everybody gets a view of my dining room. So during the closure, we had our attic space. So I have a monstrous green screen and lighting kits from the salon and everything there. So, it was pretty high level production considering I was one person there from the engineering side. And now that I have three, our three kids are actually in homeschool, but full time, we decided not to send them back because we were afraid that commingling between staff and our staff has children and things, that it was a better option for us. So they have cubicles upstairs. I mean, it's like crazy. I said if I could only train them to do something else, we could be millionaires right now, because it's like their own little IT department. They all have little cubicle walls and everything structured. So they took over my space. So now I'm in the dining room. But it was rough. And it was, I think what wound up happening too is we would get off the calls and then we would have a call, because it was like, holy cow, like, I can't believe the response, or, hey, this took us in a different direction. So we would kind of do our own decompression call afterwards. And then constant salon owners, Facebook Messenger, emails. Oh my God, thanks so much for this. And what do I do about this? And all kinds of crazy questions and things, and all valid. I think everybody's experience during this closure has been, wherever the direction has been the same for people, right? The negativity and the crazy side. Like you said, you have a multiple businesses that you run. You could say, okay, well, we'll claim bankruptcy and we'll start over. Some people didn't have, that's not even an option for some people. And they were so lost. So you were sort of spending the next, when we were on every night, it was crazy because my wife's like, I mean, I'm a name dropper, right? So I'm the only one that doesn't do hair. And I know like so many famous hairdressers. So I won't do that to your call, because my wife's going to re-listen to this and be like, she gets so mad. But even the very first day, I mean, the people that I was on the phone with that are like well-known people because of my connection or my relationship with them, whether they were checking in on me or I was checking in on them. So it was a great time for people just to, to be a community. And obviously, listen, Beehive, we're all about community and bees working together. So it was sort of another extension on what our motto and what our founding principles are.
Yeah, I love that. We have what we call, Sean and I quite a few years ago started this Michigan Salon Owners Group, and it's flourished into something pretty big now. We've had someone else take it over for us to run it that had a lot of influence in the state of Michigan. And today we just met right before this call, and it was really cool to be able to kind of like hear each other, just really wanting to support each other. So we were, for the first time, I felt salon owners were actually acting like bees, trying to support each other, because it's really been that like pull apart. And I think it's still kind of there. And I would love to see that, bridge that gap. And I really got the idea from Candy Shaw, because she started Atlanta Salon Owners Group, James. So how have you been able to help bridge that gap? And what advice do you have for salon owners to make sure they are connected with other local salon owners as well?
Well, and it's always funny that we've hosted a lot of events, and like I said, knowing some higher end training hairstylists that do technical training. So like Sally Rogerson and I are really good friends, and we've hosted Sally here before. And we're not in a monstrous space by any means, but with a small salon, it's not easy to get a super high level somebody like Candy Shaw. If you could split the difference and say, hey, we invited 3 other salons here, it makes it a little more manageable from the monetary side. So we've always been good connectors that way. And we've had other salons that walked in. I mean, we work with the Davines line, so we host a lot of their events here for other salon owners. So they have ambassadors for sustainability, and they walk in and they're sort of like, "Why are you inviting me in?" Like, it's like
Yeah.
it's like you invite a vampire in. It's like as long as they're invited, they're not going to suck your blood or whatever it is.
Uh-huh.
They get so freaked out that other salon owners may be willing to talk to them. Or we've been to our Paul Mitchell school locally, and they've done a job fair, and we've gone up to other salon owners and said, oh, wow, I love your place. Your Instagram is great, or whatever it is. And they look at you like, why are you talking to me?
Exactly.
I feel like salon owners have to realize that we're not competition with each other. I mean, there's a lot of heads to cut. I mean, if we learned anything, I know obviously Amazon has a hard time delivering Lysol spray, but they can deliver any other oddity you want. But they're definitely never going to be able to cut your hair. And if Jeff Bezos wants to try to send a drone to cut somebody's hair, I'm really, really afraid for what the hospital bill is going to look like after that.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. I'm loving the direction of this call, because I wasn't exactly certain how it was going to go. And I want to hear a little bit more, James, as far as how did you make it in the Salon 200? Like, what did you do to get there, and how many times have you won that award?
So we've hopefully this year we're going to win again, because I wrote this fantastic essay that if I don't, I might not ever get the magazine again. I'm only kidding. We've actually won twice, and we've entered a few times, but we didn't realize we've entered with the same event, because our events kind of expanded, but all on the philanthropy side. So we're, and I know, listen, our numbers are great, and I'm sure our training is good, and those would have been categories that we could have been a contender for sure. But I think our philanthropic things that we've done, I mean, we've except for this year, which we're a little disappointed, was the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, where we had a great event planned, but we've done outdoor events. I mean, we were open 6 months, and we did an Earth Day event in our parking lot of the salon, and we brought in a recycled, so it's called the art bus. So they do recycled arts and crafts for kids on a modified school bus. So all the seats are out, and it's benching. We invited the Girl Scouts. We brought a beekeeper in to keep with our name, and it was a lot of fun. And we sort of expanded that. I mean, the last one that we hosted outside, we have over 5,000 people there, all in the name of sustainability and teaching kids, and food trucks and live music and all kinds of interesting things. So that was one definite contender. This year we had planned to show a documentary called The Pollinators. So there's a local restaurant that sort of does farm to table food, and we were going to do sort of a honey-based bee dinner for people, and then show this documentary that's an award-winning documentary that's about commercial beekeeping, and that the kibosh got put on that. But we've also worked with charities. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Justice and Soul. That was another one that we had won for. Justice and Soul takes people out of the human trafficking trade in Cambodia and teaches them Western-style hairdressing. So the importance of that for us was the fact that it's hair related too. So you're not only changing someone's life, but you're bringing them in through the beauty industry. So we did so back to the psychic, right? I will take it full circle. We did an event at Ion Studio, which unfortunately had closed at this point now because of the pandemic, but that was Davines' flagship salon in Soho. Leo and Marco are two super world-renowned hairdressers that had offered up the space for us. So we did an event called Wine and Spirits. So we served local wines and we brought in a psychic medium. So the joke of it is she's the second most famous medium in Long Island. She's not the one from TV. She's the other one. But we brought in Bobby Allison, who was awesome. And we had a band there, and we supported the charity and brought some awareness, and Matthew showed his documentary. So, I would say that when you want to do anything in the salon industry, realize the power that you have, because your clients obviously come to you for a reason, not just because you make their hair look good, but what happens on the outside for them also can reflect on the inside. So we've been able to do some crazy things. Listen, we're a 6-chair salon, so I don't want to hear it, man. We've done some crazy events for a little space.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is music to my ears, because this is the number one reason why I got into Paul Mitchell Schools, because we're all about giving back. It's our motto has always been giving back is the new black, so to speak, right? And giving is our style. And I love that, because when Claybaugh had this vision, and John Paul DeJoria, as you know, he's probably the most philanthropic man in the world, right? As much as he's given, it's been millions of dollars, right? And so hearing your story, talk to all the cosmetology school owners around the world, talk to especially the Paul Mitchell, and talk to future professionals, talk to hairstylists, talk to salon owners. Why is giving back so important? Because right now, when Claybaugh is concerned that some of the schools, because they're struggling financially, that they're not going to jump in and help with our fundraisers that we normally do. And I'm like, why would people stop that? I mean, I'm stepping it up even more to give back. And so talk about that right now, and why people should be giving in their salons more like you are.
Well, it's funny because Wynn's on my radar to get on the VBR. So he already knows that already. So tell him to call me and I'll help him work out his charitable things that he wants to get done.
And you need to be on a master's. You need reciprocal. You need to be on his master's, because not many salons are doing what you're doing. How much money would you say you've raised so far to date, would you guesstimate, for different charities?
Well, so we already allot 2% of what we bring in to various different charities. So that was already part of our mantra of when we opened. I mean, obviously it's hard when you're closed for 4 months and sort of this whole recovery period. So I don't know how that's going to look, but sometimes the awareness is bigger. Sometimes the awareness is a bigger impact than the dollar amount, and that's what people have to think about. It's not just, we had Dr. Lou on, the psychosmetologist, and, I love his book. That was the first book that was gifted to me before we opened the salon. And, I read it and I said, wow, I didn't realize the impact that hairstylists have, and, that touch and that relationship, the way that it kind of goes beyond just you coloring their gray or just you giving them a fantastic haircut. You're an integral part of the community. So the funny thing is, you hear about barbershops, right? That people would always tell you, oh, the barbershop is where, it's like the watering hole, the water cooler, or whatever they would say. You hear all the stories and everything there. That works both ways. It's not just the gossipy side of things. It's also about things that are important. So whether it's environmental, like it is for us, or if you're going to champion another cause, cut it out, or Mondays at Racine is a great one. We're friendly with the girls on Long Island. They open one Monday a month for people undergoing cancer treatments. If there's something that speaks to you as a company, it also brings your team together, because, no matter what happens, and listen, you own bigger businesses than I do, Tina. So, there are going to be causes that are sort of universal for what you do, but there's also going to be ways that certain people are going to go through things, right? Unfortunately, cancer is a really big issue for a lot of people, because it's so prevalent now, and there's so many different versions. Human trafficking is crazy, even from the B side of what we do in terms of bees and the environment. There's always going to be a cause that you can get behind. And I feel like if you make that part of your mantra, it's really easy. It's easier than people think to get people behind something, if it makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That's why I said it needs to be more, because we have so much anxiety right now, and some of our team members are really experiencing that anxiety. We have a 50% of our students is they want to do distance training because of the anxiety that they have. They don't want to be in the building, and that scares me. And so in my mind, it's like, oh my gosh, okay, how can we help get rid of that anxiety? Give back. Like every time I give back or do something for somebody, I spent 2 hours on the call with bridge builders that help single parent families to figure out how to fundraise for them because they're down because they couldn't do their event, right? And so how can we take that virtually? And it made me feel so good to be able to help them, and to use my gifts and talents to be able to help this, company or this nonprofit. Talk a little bit more about that, because I love that you said it brings your team together, because right now the Michigan Salon Owners Group that we were talking to, a lot of them were saying how they're just really frustrated. They don't know how to bring their team together. I think this is the answer.
Yeah, and I think what happens too is that we had actually done a project. We worked with it's called Children's Aid and Family Services, which is local to us in Bergen County, New Jersey. They deal with children in foster care and group homes. There's a lot of complex political legal tape that's involved with group homes and things like that in New Jersey now. But my wife and I had been Halloween fans. We always liked Halloween, and one of the things that we were able to bring to the salon was, Halloween's sort of non-denominational, right? So you don't run the risk of saying we're celebrating something that maybe you don't celebrate. So it was just something fun. And matter of fact, our shower, we had a Jack and Jill, and it was a Halloween party, a dress-up Halloween party, which was kind of fun years ago. And we actually live on Elm Street, so that's been the joke, like Nightmare on Elm Street. I used to have, before I had kids, I had a 6-foot-tall talking Freddy Krueger that I would put on the porch that I had to unfortunately get rid of because my kids were a little afraid of him. But we had started working with them, and we were trying to find ways to support them and fundraise. So we started to take, I'll put air quotes up and say, recycled Halloween costumes for kids in need. And we looked back and we said, I mean, listen, it has to be so tough to be, a transitional foster child, someone that's in a group home. And, you forget, like day to day, my kids don't go without anything. I mean, and unfortunately in the Amazon age, it's like, whether it's a stupid battery for their stylus on their computer or something else, it's like you click a button and you order it. And it's sort of you don't even look at it as what's necessary for them to survive their really rough fourth grade life or whatever it is. You just order it. And like, how crappy is that to not have a Halloween costume? And when we started to take a look at it, we said, the oddity of it is, if you're struggling, right, anxiety, or have something going on in your life, not that you want to wear a mask all the time, but how great would it be for you to be empowered to be Wonder Woman or Superman or something, just to give you a little bit of that power back. So our very first year we did that, we only did superhero costumes. So, and we actually did an event. Our town has, sometimes have like a Halloween parade, or had a little event. So we invited all the foster kids to come down. And there's some oddities too with what you can publicize with that, because you can't really take photos of them. There's some different things for their protection. But we had, I'm like going to get choked up over this one. We had our staff come down, and the kids came all in their costumes, and our staff was like, holy cow, I can't believe what impact we had, because you visually saw what you did for these kids over something so stupid. It was a stupid costume. I mean, so the impact was so grand for when they came back that they were like, wow, we should do this every year. This is something that we should all just get behind. And it's not anything crazy, right? We didn't do a product discount. There was no money involved. It got our clients involved, which for you guys, October's great, right? Because you want them to rebook and start to buy your holiday boxes through November and December. So it was a great thing to jump into a month like October, where you could get the staff to do something. And our staff all has kids, so they could obviously see the resemblance of what that effect was for them. And it was just fantastic. And it was nothing, cost us nothing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This is so beautiful. I love it. Just the mere fact, not just throwing money at things. And I think just getting involved and being there. And, there's so many charities right there next door, just in your neighborhood to be able to give back to. And I was just listening to a podcast, and they said, just call your local school. call your local elementary. What needs do you have? We need pencils, you know? And oh my gosh. And so let's talk about that, because we had sent two of our stylists plus my daughter. My daughter's been to Nepal twice to train trafficked victims, to on the hairdressing as well too, and James. And so I relate to you so much on that level with that different charity. But I don't believe the impact would have been the same unless those two other hairstylists went with my daughter, and they came back and told the story of being with these young ladies, right, and hearing their real stories and feeling the emotion of it, right. And now our plan is to go to Africa. We were supposed to go this year because of COVID. That whole trip got cut off, and we are supposed to go and build a home. And I just wanted them to meet the people in South Africa, to see, and it's just, for me, being on mission trips like that, James, has given me like this emotion of gratitude immensely. And I'll look at old pictures and just start to cry, because I remember those moments with them and how they live. And they even, some of these people seem even happier than the people in America too, you know, especially right now. And so I almost go there selfishly just to get more joy from them, you know, that they instill in me, and to come back and tell those stories. But once your life has been transformed like that, you're never the same. And Wynn has always said this, and I've always said this, that our business is always a front for a church. And that's what I feel like you've really done, James. And you're one of the few salon owners that I've seen step into this, and I applaud you, A, but B, how can we get other salon owners to buy into this? Like, what's the first step that they should do? What do you recommend?
Well, and it's funny. So even with our beauty business reset calls, everybody's always looking for other ways to market their business, right? I mean, listen, the better staff you have, the more clients you have, the more money you make. And we know how the business cycle works on it. But, you know, when there's something that people can get behind in terms of a cause, like, there's a ripple effect in that. You are going to attract better staff that may be looking for something else. You know, I mean, at some point, like, you know, you look at the old Vidal videos, right? And everybody could basically be Vidal trained at some point if they really wanted to, and everybody would get the same haircut. You know, it's like there has to be some things that are going to make a difference and make you stand out. So from retaining and gaining really good staff that says, hey, you know, your commission rate is less than the place I want to go work for, but I love what you do more, because of your cause that you have. And you know, your clients champion behind that. It's just, there's so many other ripple effect factors that happen out of it. But I think you just have to take the first step. I mean, go back and look at your So you do unfortunately, depending on your area, you are going to do certain, you know, Bergen County, where in New Jersey, we're gray coverage and long layers, gray coverage and long layers. So when we bring an educator on, we try to find someone that's a little bit fun and funky, that kind of breaks out of that day-to-day bread and butter mold, and gives our staff something a little more creative. It works the same way with anything like that. If you're going to look at your demo for your staff, or you're going to look at where you are area-wise, you know, what speaks to them? You know, if you have a younger staff, there are other things that may speak to them. If you have staff with children, you know, just take the first step. But if you're going to look at all these things like, hey, what are we going to post on Instagram this month? Why wouldn't you look at some of those ways that you can give back and build that into your marketing plan? And I hate to use charity and community as marketing, but at the end of the day, it really is. There is that component. Inevitably, you will gain people that have the same type of mentality and say, you know, there's 22 hair salons in 2 square miles of where we're located. Okay. We're the only green one. I don't know why, you know, and we're friendly with Green Circle salons, and we know the damage that the cosmetology industry specifically puts on the environment because of the chemicals and the plastics and all the things. And, you know, there's not a day that goes by that a client doesn't come in and say, I've been dyeing my hair for 40 years and I never realized what the impact is, you know? So they will realize that if you just find something that you can stick to, and you have to talk about it. That's the thing, right? You do. It's funny. One of my classes that I teach is about, I haven't named it officially yet because it changes every time, but it's like the horrible consultations that some stylists are willing to give their clients about anything. But it's just like anything else. If you're not going to talk about what you're doing and why, it just gives them another level of respect for your business and something else to keep them attached. So just pick something and try it out. Listen, there's no harm in saying, hey, we tried to support a charity and we just couldn't get it to work for one reason or another. And this is why it spoke to us. But we did that little Earth Day event that was nothing. I mean, we had 50, I think we had 20 kids, and 2 of our kids were in preschool at the time. So we had both of their whole classes that were here. And that was basically the kids that showed up, and the local Girl Scouts came to see the bees. And then it turned from 40 kids to 5,000 people, that we were on the news, and we've done so many things over an event like that. And we've been able to champion a cause. And now that's funny, right? So that raises, we always sponsor the foster kids. So one year, May happens to be National Bike Helmet Month. So we did our own in-salon fundraiser. We billed it as the Earth Day event, but we raised money and donated 100 bike helmets to the foster kids. So, but Earth Day was the event. It just happened to be like, hey, they needed bike helmets, and it happened to coincide with that. So we worked with the local bike shop that was able to get us really good pricing in bulk. It was still that one event that we were able to kind of parlay into doing something else with it. And the impact was humongous. Like I said, sometimes it's something so basic that, like, why shouldn't every kid have a safe bike helmet to be able to go out and ride and get fresh air and things like that? My kids have no idea.
No, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Okay. So on your page, and then of course we have several pages too for salon owners, and the biggest frustration, of course, is finding good people to work for them. And I'm like, well, if you just get good, they're just going to be attracted to you. And you just said that because you build an attractive culture that attracts higher minded people. I think it just goes back to Sean and I have a course, a 6-month course. And the first month we spent just on foundation, building a culture. And to be honest with you, James, sometimes we're just beating ourselves up against the wall, Sean and I, because we can't get them to really build a culture that is actually, first of all, sustainable. Second, a culture that people are actually attracted to, but most importantly, a culture that they believe in as the owner, because it's about money to them. And so it's like, okay, but what about money is what makes you excited? And so it's just trying to drill down. So talk to that salon owner right now that's struggling finding these higher minded people that you're talking about. How can they start to build that culture? Where do they need to start? What's the first step?
Well, if you look at the stats, they will tell you, and this goes for buying too, right? It goes on the retail side, that this whole, and I don't even know I think the next round is going to be called alphas, right? That's what they say, like millennials and all that's done. The next round, they're going right back. It's like hurricanes at this point. They go right to the Greek alphabet when they can't think of the next way to name it. But they want to work for a company that has some type of cost to it. They want to make sure that there's something that's going to attach them to it, not just the foundational haircutting. And it's not an easy thing, but you also have to make sure that you're doing your part as an owner in terms of the training and the message. You can't start any business, and I'm a logo nut, and I'm the one that you call in the middle of the night when you're like, I'm having a hard time with naming my company, and I just always had a really good knack for being able to do that. So I'm always on speed dial for crazy people at midnight calling. But you have to incorporate all of that as part of your message. It's not just about the foundational hairdressing. It's not just about what you do. You have to make sure that you're asking questions and that you're open to. It's really hard as an owner to go in, especially smaller salons, that you're doing payroll and you have to do the accounting and you have to do the booking. And especially now during COVID, it's like we make sure that our staff knows. It's like, this is not an easy feat to go in and spray down the entire salon in between shifts, and we're changing air filters constantly, and we're doing all these extra things and stocking these PPE supplies and things like that. So you just have to make sure that you're communicating that, because I think owners sometimes go home, especially ones that work behind the chair, and here your staff and you're on the floor and you're chatty with your clients and having a good time, and you're doing your thing, and you're probably experienced, and that's why you wanted to open a salon in the first place. And then you're going home and you're going to cry, and they're all going to go out for drinks after work because they don't have to have the same type of mental conversation. So just make sure that your message is there, even for bringing on younger staff, is to say, hey, this is why I got in the business, and it's not the reason I thought, and this is what my business turned into. so that they know some of that backstory to it. Because you go to beauty school now, it's either one or the other. It's like the running joke I always have with new students when we do something at our local Paul Mitchell school is that half of them go in and they say, oh, I was really bad in school, so I decided to become a cosmetologist, and they don't realizing they're doing chemistry and geometry all day.
Yeah.
I got into hair because I hate math. Oh, you must love geometry because you're in the hair business. I don't know how, So just make sure that you're communicating that, because it's not easy to do it, and you have to do it often. It's not just something that, some salons do the daily huddles and have their monthly meetings and their one-on-ones, but you have to just make sure that the message is the same so they get it, and especially with the younger people that you're trying to recruit and bring in.
Yeah. I know why you're so successful is because you're obsessed with not only improvement, but you're obsessed with your people and helping people and adding value to people. And who doesn't want to work for someone like that, right? And so I always tell people, like, if people aren't wanting to work for you, look in the mirror and start to think, my gosh, what do I need to improve about myself, about my character, so that people are attracted to me, to our leadership, to want to come work with us? Like, why does Starbucks and Chick-fil-A have waiting lines and I don't? So I've got some work to do to be attractive so that people want to come in. You also alluded to the fact that you're in the Paul Mitchell School all the time. And I have some salon owners that are not ever in any cosmetology schools. And they just think, well, people are just going to come if they say we have a job opening. No, I'm pretty sure they already have a job. Like, all of our students are pretty much placed prior to their graduation.
Yeah, well, and it's funny too. An interesting stat is that half of them that are actually in beauty school now got in because they know someone in the business. So whether their aunt owns a salon, or if they have someone else they know that's in it. So if you're not in there early and often, you're just not even gonna. It's not even that they have a job when they graduate. Before. So New Jersey is 1,200 hours. So 600 hours they are able to get their permit so they can actually work in a salon. If you don't get them in the very beginning with the new recruits, and you should also listen, you should also be empowering them, right? I think of the struggle that you go back, and I know unfortunately most of the really high-end hairdressers that I'm friendly with now, the story changed, right? Of how I worked at Vidal and I became a creative director and all this stuff, and they don't tell you. They don't always love to tell you the scrubbing of the bathroom with the toothbrush type of,
Right.
army stories that are there. But, they need to understand that there is a progression. You just don't graduate beauty school in any state. And like Edward Scissorhands, you're going to win a NAHA award for cutting hair. There's time that has to be invested in it, not just in building a clientele, but in just knowing and troubleshooting, right? It's easy to know the answer, but what happens if the answer isn't what you thought it was going to be? And I'm only learning that because of fourth grade math at this point. I'm getting very good at troubleshooting in a different way.
Talk to us about that, because again, early and often, I love that you said that. And so our future professionals, when Sean and I go in and meet them in the brand new class, it's probably 9 out of 10 raising their hands want to own their own salon. And you're right. They either know someone that's in the business, so they're going to get into the business with them. But a lot of our students, James, what's happening is their parents are saying, hey, go to cosmetology school and I'll invest in a salon for you. So whether it's a salon suite, renting behind the chair, or owning their own salon, right? Getting started in that sense. So talk to people right now about that, and salon owners, because a lot of salon owners are up in arms about our students wanting to own their own business. It's like, yeah, that's what they want to do. Like, we're attracting entrepreneurs to our schools. So we need to help them to do that. And so, my model, I partner with our graduates. And so we've opened 3 salons so far. We're looking to open our 4th once this COVID thing passes, of course. But I'm excited to pour into their lives and to help them and help them understand business, put the business hat on and then the hairstylist hat I've had a lot of fun. I mean, these are young 20-year-olds owning their own salon. They are capable of doing this. So talk to those salon owners right now. What advice do you have for them?
Well, I love that idea of you partnering with them, or even franchise model wise,
Exactly.
if that's something that you can do.
Mhm.
And I think that has to be part of the track record. There has to be, a lot of salons love the level system. Hey, you go here and you bill this much, and then you're going to get your haircut price raised, which I don't agree or disagree with it. It is, I think that in some places it's necessary, but at the end of the day, if you said, hey, this is our track record, it's going to take X to get you here. And in 5 years, if you decide that you want to open your own salon, as long as you've met this criteria, we're going to be willing to partner with you. But understand that if you didn't meet that criteria and you want to leave and open your own salon, we're trying to set you up for success. So you can't just say, hey, I've done 2 haircuts, I graduated beauty school, I'm going to open my own suite. And I think there's something, I know the suite model gets to be a touchy subject depending. New Jersey, that's suites are becoming a new thing. No chair rentals in New Jersey, and a lot of salon owners here are up in arms and a little bit upset by it. I just don't know that that's not really my bag. I don't see the camaraderie in being able to do that. I love the collaborative side of things more than anything. I think that's what's kind of my attraction to the industry. But you definitely need a definitive track record. I also think that students have to start to understand that you're not going to be Vidal Sassoon the day you get your license. It's not like getting your driver. Listen, you think you get your driver's license, then you're not all of a sudden like, hey, I'm going to drive across country and I can great. You probably can't even really parallel park except you got enough to pass the test. So think of it in the same respect. It takes time to be able to say, hey, what do I do if I get a flat tire? What if I do if I run out of gas? What if I do? And it works with anything else. It's like that license does not mean that you are an absolute expert at that point. You definitely need to be, trained further, and you need to find a space that's going to do that.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you talk about that, because Sean and I, what we come up against quite often when we're training, Sean does all of our 7-minute target meetings, which are the money side of everything behind the chair, right? And so I think some of our stylists have unrealistic expectations. And so kind of talk about that, because we've had some stylists that feel like they should be here when they're here, and they're really frustrated with themselves. And so, we become psychologists, so to speak, in that aspect of saying, okay, so what's really going on that you think you should be up here versus here? And so maybe it's just more encouragement with them that we need to give them, and more cheerleading, get them a mentor, maybe an outside coach, what that takes. But talk to the salon owner right now as they're coaching. I think some of them aren't coaching at all, not spending a lot of time with them. But what are some of the ideas that they can do to help their team members with those unrealistic expectations that they might have?
Well, and I think that's interesting you mentioned on the coaching side, because there are available coaches and opportunities to bring someone in. I think sometimes it's like going to therapy, having the outside perspective that's not you. A lot of salon owners that are seasoned have a staff that may be younger than them, so it's always like getting yelled at by mom or dad,
Right.
and what they're not doing wrong. And I think sometimes too we focus on what you're not doing. So if you have a strict no fly list, like you're not going to show up late here. So the day you show up late, it's going to be like, hey, I just want to make sure that that's one of our principles, that you are that like we don't take, like you're not getting yelled at. I just want to know what's going on, because that's something that we don't allow. You get some of the fluff out of the way so you can actually do a little bit of a better diagnostic approach to what is holding them back, or where they think they want to be. I mean, listen, I've told salon owners, I've name dropped one person. I said I checked in on Ted Gibson, who Ted and I never met, but we're friendly and we message back and forth. So I was trying to kind of bait him to get on our show, and I said something to him about, I had seen your $1,000 haircut class and I love that. And he said, hey, dude, you better go back and Google me again. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, my haircuts are $2,400 now. Okay. So if if the skill level is there and you need to be a certain level, it's like, if you were doing $200 haircuts in your salon, or $250 haircuts, how many of them will, what is your client base and how good are you that you're going to attract that? And what are you willing to do to build it? You could say, hey, I was doing $10 haircuts and I was doing 25 a day. Now I'm doing one haircut that's $250. So you freed up a heck of a lot of time, that's for sure. What are you going to do at the time? And can you build that client following? So sometimes that unrealistic thought process of what stylists go through, it's just they need to make sure that they're thinking about what the next step is and not be so short-sighted. And that's what owners need to do. Make sure that you're going in and having those conversations. And they might not be easy conversations. But for me, I would rather know if I thought you were going to leave today than to dance around and have you stick around for 6 months and just who wants an uncomfortable 6 months?
Oh,
right? Like, and you as the owner, right? You're doing all this stuff, you're doing all this work and going home, and then it's like I have to see that face, and it's just I don't want to be uncomfortable. Hey, listen, it's your house, right? It's your salon. Like, why would you ever want to be uncomfortable in your house?
yeah. I'm so glad you brought that up. And I would say that's probably the biggest challenge that Sean and I have with our leaders and the people that we coach, of course, is they're dancing around a conversation that needs to happen. And so what's holding you back from having that conversation? So encourage every salon owner right now why that conversation needs to happen.
Well, it's not like I just said, it's not the uncomfortable, like don't make it uncomfortable. There's no reason to not have a normal conversation. And I feel like COVID sort of changed things. My joke at home is that if everybody got a blood test today, no matter what, if it was A, B, O, whatever, it would all be negative, right? Everybody would be, even if they had COVID, their blood type would be negative. There'd be no positive blood types. Just make sure that you're actually having those non-negative, make the positive side of things work better for you. I think sometimes too that people don't give enough accolades when people do a good thing. Um, you know, uh, I grew up in a household where my wife gets so mad. My mother is always like, "Oh my God, you did that so great! You did this all the time." But that positive reinforcement goes a really long way, and I think sometimes that opens it up to be able to have a better conversation if there is something that you need to make a shift on or make a change. And don't be afraid to have your staff understand how the numbers work. I think so many owners I talk to, they're so afraid, like they're making bazillions of dollars, like they're sitting like Scrooge McDuck in the back room on gold Cougarans or something crazy. And it's not the case. I mean, owners, the profit margins are not as big as people think in the salon industry. It's definitely a passion project for most owners that are out there. And I think some students need to realize that. Don't be naive. Sometimes you can work for a rock star grade salon and not have any of the crazy responsibilities that the owner does. And yes, you're going to get a commission level between 35, which really industry wide should be a lot less than it actually is. And you're going to be able to go home and you're going to walk your dog and you're going to order Chinese food and you're going to put your feet up on the couch and watch TV. And your owner is going to be there trying to find images for Instagram and trying to figure out if they have enough time to get the payroll in tomorrow, if there's enough money and all the other stressful things. So, you people out there that work for salon owners should really go in. And I know you can't give your owner a hug tomorrow, but you should write a handwritten note and say, I would hug you if I could.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So as we close this out, I have one last question and then Sean will bring it home. But okay. So as far as a school owner, as far as schools, what do we need to do to improve for the salon? So as you look at some of your new hires, James, what do you think that we're missing as school owners? One of them, I think, it's giving them a little bit more of business training, right? To give them a real numbers. And I have yet, maybe you have James, I've yet to have someone that owns their own salon suite or chair rental give me their profit and loss statement. No one will show me. I'm hoping maybe after listening to this right here, message me and send me your profit and loss statement, because I just want to see, because most of them say I left so I can make more money. And I want to see if it really is and put it up against a commission. And from what I understand, it's slightly more, but not much more, but a much bigger headache. And so if it's for the money versus the freedom, like what's the real reason why you want to do this? And maybe you just need to find a higher minded salon owner like James to work with and for, so that you can take your business to the next level as well too. So what opinions do you have on that, A? And then second, share with us what we're missing as cosmetology school owners right now.
Well, I think suites, and I have a different opinion on suites because it's a new thing for us in the state. I know just as many high-end stylists that said, "Hey, I went to a suite because I can accommodate." I'm not completely not in agreement with being a 24/7 business by any stretch of the means. So some of the higher level stylists, I know that it's that they're busy and it's like they work on demand. So they don't have any set scheduling or anything like that. They may like it. I don't think that that's sustainable in any stretch of the means. I think you need your day off, and some things have to be strategic that way. I also think a lot of people that went into suites had a boss they didn't like. it's hard to do an exit interview in hair salons, but I think maybe trying to figure out some of those things, even if they're anonymous conversations, as to why may help salon owners and people that went into suites, and maybe get them to make a decision whether they thought going back to a salon was a good thing. I think the business acumen for beauty students on what the availability of suites are is huge. I don't think any student that I've ever met in my entire life should just jump right into a suite. I think they should go to a salon. They should experience a salon. I think it's something that should be talked about in the beauty school, so they don't have this naive thing that they're just I'm gonna decorate it so cute and it's gonna be great, and they're giving everybody crooked bangs. But I think the students also need to know that they need to be able to have those honest conversations with salon owners, because if the average salon says, hey, our training program is between a year and 2 years, depending on how high level, especially on the haircutting side, right? Students have to be willing. Like, don't make me think I'm going to waste 2 years of training and $1,000 in mannequin heads training you, and you're going to sneak out, stealing the client cards, all that stuff that salon owners like to talk about, and you're going to sneak out in the middle of the night, and I'm going to feel defeated. I think sometimes that the defeat aspect they have to understand too is that, imagine if that was you and you trained somebody for 2 years and they decided to just leave and open up a suite. So there's got to be, hey, listen, from my end, it's contractual, man. Hey, listen, your husband is a retired lawyer. I would be all over. I love legalese. I call it legalese.
Yeah, just don't sneak around, and I think that goes back to ownership of just having that conversation right away and say, listen, if you decide you don't want to partner with us and you want to go off on your own, I want to bless you. Like, let me bless you. Like, I try to have those conversations all the time with our team members. Let me bless you, because you don't want to sneak around, and cheat. It's gonna hurt you in the long run. Like, let me be there for you. I'll help you move.
Yeah. No, and I think that's it. And I would agree. I think the conversations need to be honest.
Yeah.
And I think, for an industry that has so much honesty with their clientele and has really tough conversations about life with their clients, we need to have better conversations with our staff and with our students and with our fellow salon owners, and just, figure out how to help each other make it work.
That's awesome. Well, I just want to circle back real quickly. I know we just have a couple minutes to the beginning. We talked about how you have a sustainable salon, a green salon. And for those that are listening that don't necessarily know what that is or what that looks like, can you kind of give them a little bit of insight and how maybe they can go about turning their salon into a green salon?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing that you'd have to do is to do something with Green Circle Salon. It's they're the only ones really that do a fantastic job about getting rid of some of that salon waste the right way, especially now with all the PPE supplies. I mean, extra gloves and extra crazy. I mean, we are completely disposable here now, but even that, we're using biodegradable gowns. I have to call them gowns because they come from Ireland. So I have to be careful because we called them capes and then they sent me the wrong thing. But we're using biodegradable gowns. We're using easy dry towels to keep our staff safe. So it's cutting down obviously on laundry. I mean, laundry is non-existent here right now, which is fantastic, because if you saw laundry at my house with 3 kids, we're definitely making up for it during COVID at home. But that's definitely the first way. My good friends over at Vish is a great way. That's my favorite starter way for salons to become more sustainable, because it's the easiest. It saves you money. Hold your color formulas. It does fun stuff in terms of what you do. So some of you people that may have 3-part color lines that are really hard to mix, you get back to the client, you're like, oh wow, I need another, X amount of grams or ounces, and you have to try to mix 3 parts. The computer basically does it for you. So for salon owners out there, you're actually going to save money by not having that wasted color. For the environment, you're not going to be rinsing that color down the drain. So there's, don't ever think about green as like, oh wow, it's going to be this whole other thing we have to do. It's obviously saving the environment is what we're going to champion behind, but you're going to save money too, which hey, listen, everybody would like to be able to make a little more money.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, James. And how can people find you? Where can they find you on Instagram?
So I am Patron St. James on Instagram. You can find me there. There's a funny story behind that too, but that's for the next call, Tina.
Oh,
I always have the fun stories, man. You can check us out at the salonmovement.com, or if you're salon owners that are out there, join Salon Owner Mastermind on Facebook and catch up on some of our awesome live calls. We're on. I know this is going to be sent out later on, but we have Anthony Whitaker on. Is going to be with us today. I love Anthony. We're just lining up a whole new quarter of some great people. Tina obviously is going to be back on with us too. And we're fighting the fight with everybody, man. And we're looking forward to the roaring 20s that are going to happen after this is all done.
Roaring 20s. I love it. James, you are awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Thanks, guys.